Hello, and welcome to today's webinar, Digital Solutions for Construction, where it is our intention to walk you through the Bluebeam software solution. My name is Wendy Finch, and I'm the Marketing Director for TopCon Solutions Store Network with 13 U.S. locations, and PPI Group being the most recent addition to the network. All TopCon Solutions stores have a long history as an authorized TopCon dealer, and now with the recent acquisition of PPI Group and its software designations as a authorized reseller for both Bluebeam and Autodesk products, the entire group can now serve customers with true field-to-finish product workflows and technical expertise solutions. So, very glad to have you guys on our webinar today. We do have a full room, if you will. Got a lot of folks still logging in, it looks like, but we're going to go ahead and get started because we do have a full hour and we do have a hard stop at the 11 o'clock hour. So today we're broadcasting this webinar from the Great Northwest in our Portland, Oregon location. Joining me on the webinar is Bluebeam account representative Charlie Smith. Charlie's actually remoting in from our Seattle office where he manages all things Bluebeam. Paul Stuva is also in the room sitting in to assist with the moderation of questions. And Paul manages our day-to-day operations of our software technical support and is also Bluebeam certified technical specialist. So a lot of talent coming to you from today's webinar. Finally, today's presenter, David Campbell. David has achieved Bluebeam certified instructor designation, and I'll let him provide a little bit more of his background on himself when I turn things over in just a couple of minutes. Before I do that, I got just a few housekeeping items that I'd like to go through. So on your, first of all, the webinar is being recorded. So if for some reason you have to step away or anything like that, within the next day or two, we'll send a follow-up email with all the resources that we're going to be talking about and any links and contact information that you might need, as well as the link to the recorded version of this webinar. So we are hoping to have time before the end of the webinar for a Q&A. Again, we'll be stopping right at the 11 o'clock hour, but Paul is helping watch those questions. So on your GoToMeeting toolbar, there is a questions box, so you can type those in. He'll be addressing some of them right in the box, and then afterwards, if it requires David's assistance and expertise, we'll answer those live on the Q&A session part of the webinar. Or if we need Charlie's input from the product purchasing perspective, we can bring him on live as well. So we got all kinds of resources, a lot of talent here. So at the end of the webinar, we will be providing all the contact information, and hopefully that'll clear things up as far as who to contact for what. I think that just about wraps up my portion of this. Huge responsibilities here for me, guys. So thanks for letting me be a part of it. And now I'm going to turn things over to the experts. So without any further ado, I'm going to introduce you to David Campbell.
Good morning. It's a beautiful day today here in Portland. Just wanted to start out by saying thank you for joining us. And first off, my background, I guess, a little bit in I have a few years of experience in the industry working in Bluebeam, from starting out as a draftsman using Bluebeam in architectural companies, then working my way up and then coming out here. Now, I will tell you that when I started with PPI, my knowledge of Bluebeam was somewhat, limited, I had gotten into the program and got my way around, and in the 6 or 7 months I've been here, I'll tell you that I've learned so much about this program. And honestly, one of the reasons because of that, or one of the reasons for that, is because this program is very user-friendly. Once you get going into it, you get into this kind of groove, and kind of allows you to flow. And I'm really hoping that some of the things we go through today will be able to, let's say, help improve your workflow. All right, so for today, I want to start by covering this outline here. We're going to go over takeoffs and estimation, including the custom markups and measurement tools, punch keys, and some of the punch template, form creation, including an RFI form that I have, as well as markup accountability, and that's in studio sessions or just your day-to-day work. Now, as I go to transition from PowerPoint here into review, we do have a poll that I would like for you guys to take if you guys have the time. I'll go ahead and switch over now. There we go. All right, so with the poll, we're just wanting to know what your relationship with the Bluebeam software is, if you've ever used it, if you've utilized like the 30-day free trial, that kind of information. Now, as you can see, I've already got some of the...
They can't see this yet.
Oh, they can't see this.
Close the poll. So.
Okay. I'm sorry, do you want to leave it open?
I can see the poll.
Okay,
Okay.
we're going to go ahead and close it.
Okay,
We'll
cool.
close the poll. Thank you.
All right. All right, so we're going to go ahead and close that poll, and we'll get started here. So you're going to notice that I have a few markups and measurement tools already kind of shown here on the screen. Now, down here, you'll notice my markups list here. I have some of the information here for like my area and volume measurements that I have for my concrete, including showing me the area, the materials, this type of stuff. And I don't have them up right now, but I'll show you some of the columns that I've made for these here. And I'll kind of give you an example of how I went through and put these together as we go through this webinar. So, all right, I'm going to scroll in here on this little tag I made here. Now, this tag here is, I thought might be kind of useful today. I'm going to go ahead and move this out of the way here and bring out my properties. This should be my properties. There we go. So I'm using this as a door tag. Okay. Now, the significance of this is that it is in fact a sequence tool. So I've used this sequence tool to kind of go through, because you're going to notice that in my plan here, I don't have any door tags. So I can use this sequence tool to kind of go through, tag my doors, tag my rooms, that kind of thing. So when I start gathering all this information in my markups list down here, and when I go to export it to Excel, that information will transfer over. Now, along with that is the count tool, one of the count tools that I've created down here. So let's see, I'll go up to door number 102 and we'll start here. With this count tool, I've just made a small rectangle and put a D inside of there. I'm going to go ahead and change our subject here to door. Okay. Now, what's cool about this is, you see, I've made these custom columns down here in this markups list. Now, I can apply a material to this door, whether solid core wood or your hollow metal. And I'll just say it's a hollow metal. It's going into the staircase there. And based off of that information, I have a custom column created over here that can give me an estimate for that number of doors. So if I'm looking around and I know I'm going to have more hollow metal doors around my plan, I'm going to go ahead and resume this count here. And what I can do is then start going through and counting these doors. Okay, now when I finish with my count, you're going to notice that that total should update right here in my markups list. Now, so we can use it that way and go ahead and manually go through tagging our doors, or the other way that we can go about this is to do a visual search. And with this visual search, what we can do is go ahead and I'll draw this rectangle around my door here. I'll keep my sensitivity somewhat medium here. And I'll hit search. Now what this is going to do is this search is going to go ahead and go through my entire sheet and pull up any of the things that were basically inside of that rectangle. I'm looking for doors in this instance. So what it's going to do is go ahead and search the entire plan for those doors that resemble the one that I searched for. So this is pretty useful because as they start coming up here, you can see so it only found 2 this time. I need to increase my sensitivity, obviously. But what I'll do is, just with those 2 doors, for instance, is I'll go ahead and I will check these instances. And what I'm going to do is go ahead and apply a count measurement to the checked items. And what I'll do is I'll come down here and, oh, excuse me, there we go. Apply count to check. And I want to find my count tool that I created, which is right here. Okay. And once I do that, it'll go ahead and update based off of the my choice here between solid core wood or hollow metal. And it says I have the 2 doors, so there's the 250 right there. Okay, so with this count tool, there's also other things that we can go ahead and start counting around and getting our estimates for. Just like here, I've created a custom count tool for my labs. Pull this down here. For my labs here. Now, I've already put my subject as the fixture just so I can sort through it down here in the markup list, and I put the label as lab. So I can go ahead and start manually counting these. So I can go ahead and in here, and then I would find, I don't have that one up, so I'll come down here into my columns down here for my markups list, and I'll bring in my fixture and my fixture subtotal columns that I created. Okay, I'll find my lab count, and here we go. It gives me a fixture subtotal right there based off of which fixture I specified, which I did specify the lab. So I do have one here as well that I can use for water closets. Okay, and then if I start getting a lot of information in my markups list, I can go ahead and set my filters. Okay, I can set a filter, come through and just find all of my fixtures. So I have my lab and my water closet down here with an estimate of how much they are in the subtotal there. And I can export this into a CSV or XML summary for input right into Excel. Okay. Now it does not take much to create these tools. They're pretty quick, and once you save them to your in your tool chest as a tool set, they'll be available for use over and over again. Okay. Now I am in the takeoff, a custom takeoff profile that I've created to incorporate the use of the columns that I've created and everything. So I think that's all I had for the custom markups there. So I want to move into the measurement tools now. I'm going to go ahead and turn this filter off down here. I'm going to move into the measurement tools. Now, one of the first things we're going to want to do before you start using these measurement tools is to go ahead and calibrate your drawing. I have a scale down here that I would use to go ahead and calibrate this. Okay, and I'll just do a double check to make sure. And we got 16 foot, so we're looking good. Okay, so with these measurement tools, this is where stuff kind of starts to get fun. So you'll notice I have a couple of them here already made, the carpet tile and ceramic tile. I'm going to go ahead and take these out and show you guys kind of how I did this. All right, delete that one out of there as well. So in the measure tools here, you have your area, your square foot, the volume, your dynamic fill, the count, those kind of things. Well, I went through and I've kind of created my own measurement tools down here and put them in my Takeoff tool set. And you'll notice here for my properties, I have a concrete. Now I put it as 3500 PSF, and I've gone through. I've applied a hatch pattern and changed my scale, and just kind of simple things like that to kind of set it apart from some of the other ones that I would be using. Okay. All right. So what this is going to do instantly is come up. It's going to have my hatch come up with it. It's going to have that label of 3500 PSF. Okay. And it's going to tell me that it's 1,881 cubic feet. Now, some of you may be asking, where is it pulling that measurement from? So to get that information, we would come down to the concrete measurement tool down here. And with the volume tool in review, you're going to set a depth. Not you'd think a height, but it's going to end up being depth for Bluebeam. And what it's going to be, it's in feet. So we're going to have to go a like 0.5 or half of a foot for 6 inches. So I'm giving it a 6-inch depth here. Okay, now I've also put in a pricing for the 3500 PSF, but I put in a 2500 PSF as well, just to kind of see a difference. So I just did that by creating a custom column and calling it material, making it a choice column, which I'll give you guys an example of here in a couple minutes. But if I change this to, let's say, 2500 PSF, it'll total that up for me right there. And if I change it back up to 3500 PSF, you can see there's a difference. Okay. Oops, sorry about that. Okay. So as we go through, here's the concrete one that we've created there. Now I also have a carpet tile that I could use. So if we come down to, where was that break room? There we go. If I can just put it in this break room real quick. All right. So you're going to notice sometimes that your text is kind of in the way. So I'm going to go ahead and just move my text out real quick. Okay. And here again, I just went through, I put in my subject, and gave it a label of carpet tile and kind of made it stand out to how I think, it would look. Now, if you'll notice down here, it's going to go ahead and separate itself based off of this subject, right? So we have our tile, and then I have the carpet tile. So I'll come over here, you'll see it's already pulling that information for me here under the materials. Okay. And then as I scroll over, I don't have my tile on, do I? Bring up my tile subtotal. There we are. And there we go. So that's go ahead. And like I said, all of this information is readily transferable into Excel. All I'd have to do to transfer this over is go ahead and print out a CSV summary here, and what it'll carry over all of this information right over into our Excel spreadsheet, okay? For further calculating formation or formulas, I'm sorry, things like that. Now, to create this, these columns here, I'll kind of give you an idea of what I did. So we'll go into this material column here. Actually, go into the material column, modify. So this is just to give you an idea of how I went through this. So you're going to notice that they're separated by subject. So I'll go ahead and show you here real quick. If I grab this and I change this subject, it's no longer going to be paired with those. Okay, well, where did it go? There's that. So, well, that didn't work how I wanted it to, did it? Yeah. That should be. There we go. What's going to happen is these markups are going to know when, if I to change this one right, they're going to pop up with the available materials based off of that subject. Okay, so with my doors here, the only two options that I have available for my doors are going to be solid core wood and hollow metal, because those were under the, go back up in here into my material, those were under the door subject. So I'm only going to have those two items to choose from. Okay, so that's really good when you're going ahead and you know, estimating your full project. You can change it and put in whatever you're speccing, right? So if we want to change out our labs, if you want to use American Standard, or if you want to use Brone or something, or I can't remember, any other type, you could go ahead and start specifying and put their price points in there, and so that would carry that information with it. Okay, and essentially you can assign, where it says assign numeric value there, that's where you go ahead and put the value for that item that you're specifying. Okay, and then that number goes ahead and works into our formula where we go to get our subtotal, and we can pull all of our information from there. Okay, all right, so if we don't have any questions on that, I'm going to go ahead and move forward into the punch checking. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and switch my profile up here, and I want to go down to the punch profile. All right, so in the punch profile, we're going to pop up over here on our tool sets, and we're going to have these punch keys. All right, these punch keys are interesting. They hold a little bit of information. Now, a lot of the Bluebeam review tool sets, in terms of the punch profile, they're going to come up. You're going to see a lot of the default ones in here, but the problem is, on most of these, it's like I need it to say something different. Okay, so maybe instead of a wall finish not smooth, maybe I have a crack in my wall. So what I would want to do is go ahead and change that to reflect what I need to punch. So I'm going to go ahead and change that over, and then I would need to go ahead and change my subject here. And I'm going to go ahead and leave it under the subject carpentry. And there we go. Now, I can also create my own punch profile or punch tool set, kind of like how I did with my takeoff tools, and start adding the punch keys that I frequently use to that tool set. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and pick up my thumbnails here. I've already created a couple templates, punch templates here, and I've brought over, so I'm going to go ahead and punch out the men and women's restroom, and I'll show you guys here in a second how to create these templates and how we're going to go ahead and transfer that information over to them. So let's say as you're walking through this bathroom here, you're going to notice that let's say Where was that? Was that flooring issue? There it is. There we go. So let's say we need some tiles. We need to replace some tiles. So just another note here. You can resize these by just clicking on them and dragging them out. When we bring this in, it's going to come into a scale of like 1:1. But if, a lot of these are going to be enlarged, so you can go ahead and expand them out by grabbing those blue control dots. So what's really cool about these punch keys, though, so say we have this tile here, and you know what? I'm going to actually just put let's put that crack in the wall over here. Okay. What's cool about these punch keys is the fact that they can hold information. So you're doing your punch walk, right? You're walking through this restroom. You notice this crack in the wall. You know that it needs to be repaired. And if you're in the field, one of the cool items or tools that you can use is going to be up in the, where was it? Markup. It's right here in the markup. So right up here, you're going to notice this camera tool. So this is only going to pop up if you have a camera on your tablet or on your PC. So the reason I'm mentioning this is if you're out doing your punch walk, you can take pictures using this camera, and you can go ahead and attach those pictures to your punch. Okay? So I would come into here, and I'm going to say capture. Okay, and in this instance, you could go from camera, which it would go ahead and place a picture. I'm going to go ahead and say from file. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and find my images, and I'm going to say wall issue number 3. Okay, so you're going to notice that when I did that, that little camera symbol that we had there is going to pop up right next to it. So when I double click on that, there it is. Okay. When I double click on it, it's going to bring that picture up that I attached to that punch key. Now, the cool thing about it is you can attach not only, you know, just regular pictures, but you can also attach videos. The only way to attach a video would be through going through the actual camera. Okay, but you can attach videos and pictures to these punch keys as you're walking through. Okay. Okay, so you're going to notice that as I'm going through also, I'm going to try to, I'm just going to do a filter if I can real quick. Actually, I'll take that off. Let's see if I can't find, there we go. So all the information for my punches are also going to be stored inside of my markups list. All right. I'll tie that in to how this really fits here in a minute. But also, let's see if I have one of my spaces set up down here. I have a space set up for my concession area. You'll notice that as let me go back to my tool chest here. Let's say I'm going to put a crack wall just in here. As I place this punch inside of that space, it tracks it for me down here inside of my markups list. So you can keep that information going, and it will track and keep tracking even in between, like we're going with these punch templates here, or the punch walk. It'll transfer that information and keep it going with that space. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and I want to insert a blank page. Go ahead down here to my punch template and say OK. So I want to go ahead and transfer, just for time's sake here, I'll go ahead and grab this janitor's closet. Okay. What I'll need to do is go ahead and grab a snapshot of this closet, janitor's closet here. Okay. And I'll bring it over to my punch template. All right, there we go. I need to resize it here. Okay, and now is where I can go through and start start going through and placing some of my punch punch keys in this plan. Okay. All right. So another really cool thing about this, let me go back into the thumbnails and I'll go back into the men's room here, is the fact that I can create, we have a legend that will show me all of the punch items that I've put. Now let me go ahead and, you're going to need to put that legend on before you start placing your punches. But if I place this punch key here, it's going to go ahead and keep track of my punch keys and the information that I want to see with them. So if I go ahead and come into my properties here, you're going to see that I have a column down here now. So if I go into edit columns, this is going to be the information that we can show with that legend. Okay. All right. And also we can start, I'm actually going to go ahead and do this one real quick here. Now you may want to assign a responsibility, like we have this the tile here, or maybe let's just do the cracked wall. Okay, so we have a cracked wall here that we know that we want to assign to one of our carpenters. So I have B Downs and S Hodges down here. This is where you can go through and start saying, okay, I want Mr. Hodges here to go ahead and work on this crack in the wall. Okay, whereas over here, I'm going to go ahead and want Mr. Downs to start working on this crack over here. So you can go through all of your punch keys and start assigning them to different contractors and keep that information all within your markups list. And then it gets even cooler. So we have our status list over here, our status. As you go through and you're doing your punch walk and you've noticed, all right, so Mr. Downs has come through and he's actually fixed this crack in the wall. Now I could say that I'm accepting his repairs or that the job has been completed. So if I say complete, it's going to go ahead and let it know that I set the status on today's date at this time. Okay, and if I ever go to change the status, it's going to stack it right on top of it for me. So I'm not going to lose that original information. So maybe I go through and I accept where he is at this time, but maybe the job's not complete. Maybe he's doing all right based off of our timeline, but he hasn't finished yet. So I can go ahead and say, yes, his work's been accepted, but he's still not complete. Okay, so that's where we can use that information. All right, so I'm going to switch over and go ahead and go through this form creation here. Now, I have a RFI template here. Now, this one is going to be blank, and I have one that I've already gone through and placed some of the actual text boxes, signature block, and drop down, things of that nature. So there are going to be two ways to go ahead and create this form. Okay, you can go up to the form tab up here and we can use the auto create. What the auto create is going to do is go ahead and scan through this document and place these text boxes and signature blocks based on where it sees. Okay, now one difference you're going to notice immediately is the date. Over here it has the text box, whereas here I've actually put a drop down inside of it. I'm going to get out of that. And then I can go through and change the date in my drop down. Now you don't have to use a date, this is just an example, but all the information for that drop down is going to be hosted here within your properties. So if I needed to go ahead and change it, I can go ahead and type in different dates or anything like that. So to create something like that, you would go to your insert and then we'd find our drop down, the OK button, digital signature, things of that nature. So if I go into my blank RFI form here, I'm going to take that back out there. This is where I could go through and manually create some of my text boxes here, or if I wanted to drop in a drop down anywhere, I could do that as well. Okay, you would adjust them by going into your Forms tab on the left panel. Okay, so I want to switch gears a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and get out of that. And I'm going to go ahead and go into accountability. So accountability for your markups. That's a pretty big thing in this industry, right? You want to know that your markups are being tracked and that they've either been approved by you or denied, right? All of your markups are going to be tracked down here by who places them, okay? So as you can see down here, I've placed all of these. It has all of my information. It's also going to have a, if you wanted to show it, we also have a date timestamp that we can apply when I made these markups and at what time. And of course, if I was to send anyone this information, I would need to flatten my document, okay? Flattening your document, what that's going to do is because if I go ahead and export my comments, if someone wanted to import this in and basically, see all of my markups, what I've put down, things like that, they're going to be able to adjust my markups, okay? So by flattening it, I'm gonna come through and I'm going to flatten this document, and I'm going to uncheck allow markup recovery. What this is going to do is go ahead and set it so I cannot, or anyone else cannot, adjust my markups. But you're also going to notice that the information has now left from the markups list. Okay, so that's kind of one of the trade-offs with that, should we say. Now, also with these statuses, you can go through and put these statuses on any of these markups. You can set even a custom status, whether you're reviewing, you're waiting to approve it, it's been accepted, it's been canceled. And we also have our other statuses, like I've created an HED status here that just tells us whether it's been open or closed. Okay. All right. So one of the final things that I want to cover today is going to be in our studio session. Okay. All right. So in this studio session, a few things you guys are going to notice. I'm not sure how many of you here have used the studio sessions or projects before, but in sessions we have down here what's called the record. So this record is actually going to track all of the activity in the entire session. Everything that we've done, from whoever's joined, at what time they joined, if they left, and I'm not meaning like they left permanently, if they just take the information offline. So I'm going to go ahead and get into this document here. And Paul says hi. There we go. All right, so as you'll notice here, it would track all of his markups. Okay, we of course have our markups down here showing in our list, and here's the author and date. Now, in a studio session, you're going to see it lit up bright orange there. It's just letting me know that Paul had added a measurement for us here. Okay, now there's something I want you guys to take note of right there. As soon as I click on Paul's markup, let me switch back to my original example here. You're going to notice that all of the control points in my markup are going to be yellow, right? But as soon as I switch over to Paul's, they're all grayed out. Okay, this is because the way that Bluebeam works in a studio session is that I cannot mess with any of Paul's markups or his measurements, anything, and his comments, anything that he puts on my sheet, I cannot adjust. Even though I'm the administrator, I started the session, Paul and I have full accountability of our own markups. Okay? Now going back into this record, as I go through, I can click on these and they're going to be essentially kind of like hyperlinked to the location of his markup, and it'll take me to that exact location of where he did it and things of that nature. Okay, but we also have let me see, we have all of the information being tracked down here. Now Paul can take this document offline and work on it offline, and as soon as he comes back online, all of the information for that, all of the information that he put in, his markups, all of his comments, anything like that, will synchronize to our webinar example PDF here that we're using in our session, and they will all pop up instantaneously, not only on the sheet, but in our record. Okay, so all of this is going to be tracked. We can also go through and print this record. Now, when you end a session, a record is automatically going to be printed out for you, showing you essentially who all was in your webinar, I'm sorry, in your session, who was all in your session, what markups they made, all that kinds of information if you want to show it, okay? You can also print out a PDF package report or a combined files report, all right? But we can also filter out what we're seeing before you print that. So if you wanted to just say we had a certain number, a large number of people working on a project with us here in this session, and I want to just find all of the markups made by Paul. So I'm going to go ahead and turn these other ones off here. So I'm going to see here just the attendees, and I can see Paul here is left, he's joined, he's left, he's joined. And this is how you're going to go ahead and see see the information that you want to go ahead and print out when you're done with your session. Okay. All right. Yeah, go through, turn back on the chat, the markup, and document. So also in our session here with accountability, I'm going to go ahead and go into my settings here. This is where you can go ahead in your studio session and adjust the permissions. So when someone like Paul, or let's say I'm hosting the session and I have certain contractors that I don't need to give them access to everything. I don't need to let them add documents or print this. This is where I would go to adjust those settings. Okay, keeping the right people in the right documents, and that way it allows you a little bit more control and accountability inside of a studio session as well, and that you can assign these permissions based off of either individual attendees, or you can go into a groups and actually group him together under maybe MEP or electrical or architectural, things like that, and allow them or deny them permissions based off of their group itself. Okay. All right. I think that's all I have. Do we have any questions? Here we go.
So before we turn things over here for the Q&A, David's put up the final slide here, which has our contact information. So I just kind of want to review this real quickly. Again, we're all based here in the Portland, Oregon office, and so we still go under that PPI group name. So if you need to contact anybody from the PPI group, that would be David, Paul, myself, or Charlie. We've got that information up for you. As I mentioned earlier, we are now part of the TopCon Solutions Network, and so if you're looking for your local office for the TopCon Solutions store, you can go to topconsolutions.com, and there is a locator page there that has the contact information for all 13 locations. So just wanted to point that out. And I'm going to turn things over to Paul to initiate the Q&A.
And hello, everybody. So we got one good, solid question here. And I know a lot of you are probably thinking it. From Jonathan Schmidt. He wants to know, is there any way you could give an example, or if there's a capability for Bluebeam to quantify cut fills for construction based on existing ground versus planned?
Oh, yeah.
And if that functionality is in there, is there a legend tool for that takeoff as well, or can you create one?
All right, so for a cut tool, going between different, maybe a existing and new, technically what you could use is a space. And within that space, actually, you could go ahead and, so if I created, let's say this, oh, I need to go back in my original PDF, I'm sorry. So let's just say I have my concession stand here, or concession area, and I wanted to go ahead and I can add a space inside of this area, okay? And inside of this, let's just call this new, okay? Inside of this, I would go ahead, it's gonna carry all the information for that space. You could do it that way, or you could actually do what's called a sketch to scale. You could do a rectangle sketch to scale. And what this is gonna do, the rectangular sketch to scale, is going to allow you to actually put in, you can put in your sizes, okay, or drag it across here. And you can apply a hatch pattern inside of there. Now it's going to keep track of our information inside of here as well. And then you would be able to go ahead and create a new type of rectangle sketch to scale inside of there, apply your subject, be new and existing, and then go from there into your takeoffs and estimating.
Okay, I think that covers a piece of it. Is there a legend functionality for that?
Okay, the legend functionality, let's see. We can, if you, let's say you use this rectangle sketch to scale here, right? You can create a legend from any of your tool sets, okay? You can, what you would do is go ahead, except for your recent tools, obviously, but let me go back into, I'm gonna go in my takeoff profile here. And if I just went into this concrete one here, I could create a new legend from there, and then it would track any of the information just from that tool set, right? But I could also go through, and once you click on these settings cogs here, you would go ahead and attach any of your tools that you use from that tool set to that legend. So that legend will track all the information.
All right, so next we have a question from Kevin Thim. He's wanting to know about Bluebeam's ability to scan PDFs and the document comparison. Does it show highlights between documents for changes and all that kind of?
Yes, it does. So for scanning documents, an important thing that you're going to want to keep in mind is that Bluebeam Review is going to work off of vector graphics, right? And a scanned document is going to come in as raster. So you can use the, where is it? The OCR, which is going to be your optimal character recognition here, to kind of transfer those graphics into, or from raster into vector, so it can be readable, searchable, everything like that within Bluebeam. And then, I'm sorry, what was the other part of that question?
How does it highlight any changes?
Okay, so the overlay documents or compare documents, you have your compare and overlay. Compare is going to actually set them next to each other, and it's going to cloud differences between the two documents, whereas overlay will actually set them right on top of each other and essentially give them a colored layer, okay? And then you'll notice differences, like if you set your original at red and your revised as blue, it'll show you everything in blue that has changed from the original drawing.
All right, that covers that. Next piece, and this is one I'm interested in, is there a calendar or project management function within Bluebeam?
There's not, I mean, kind of, you're getting into studio when you're talking about something like that. I would go into project like your session or actual your studio project or sessions. There's not going to be an actual management tool, but if you go into your projects here, you can actually start assigning like expiration dates and stuff like that. But and you can assign, you know, your statuses here, and then this is also where you can also customize, create your custom statuses to let people know where you are in the project, whether you're design review or you're actually submitting to state, anything like that. You can keep your statuses and updates going from there.
Okay, I think that about covers it. We got a couple more questions, but those are some we'll probably follow up on. They're a little bit more instructional. If anybody else has any other questions, feel free to throw them in the question field. We got a few more minutes here. Doesn't look like we got anything coming in just yet. Alrighty, well, it looks like we're done with the questions for now. If you guys do have any follow-up questions, we can bring back up that contact page. Feel free to call or email. You want to bring up the PowerPoint?
Yes.
All right, I'm going to step in here and we'll close this out. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, David. Thank you, Paul. And thanks, Charlie, who's on the line as well. The other thing I want to point out is if you found value in David's presentation, if you have any questions, or if there's anything we can help you with, we'd be happy to do that. David trains a lot of folks on this product and can customize a class that is made just for you as well. Paul provides the support and is happy to assist with your technical questions. So we're going to go ahead and close things out. Again, thank you for joining us, and we hope to see you on the next one.